to Oregon's own Congressman Greg Walden.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a distinct honor and high privilege to be with you on this beautiful Oregon Saturday afternoon. I flew in from the nation's capital last night late and got home to my wife in Hood River and got up this morning and drove down here to be with you. It is a true privilege to join you, and I want to thank Bill and Dama for opening up their wonderful home here to all of us. Let's give them a big round of applause. You know, Bill was inside there with him, and he gave me a copy of the Patriots Bible. And he opened it up to a quote that is in here because it has more than just God's word, but also man's word. And this particular version with some inserts of wonderful quotes. And one of them is from Fisher Ames, and you've probably seen it on some of the materials that have been here. It said, "Should not the Bible regain the place it once held as a school book? Its morals are pure, its examples captivating and noble. In no book is there so good English, so pure and so elegant, and by teaching all the same book, they will speak alike, and the Bible will justly remain the standard of language as well as faith." And that was his answer to Fisher Ames. I also like what they quote Daniel Webster as having said, "If we abide by the principles taught in the Bible, our country will go on prospering and to prosper. But if we and our prosperity neglect its instructions and authority, no man can tell how sudden a catastrophe may overwhelm us and bury all our glory in profound obscurity." Statesman and lawyer and orator Daniel Webster. We're blessed today to have with us, I know joined us recently, Doug Whitsitt, state senator from down in the Klamath Basin. Would you please welcome Doug Whitsitt? Jeff mentioned Denny's flyby. I worked for Denny Smith when we took on Al Ullman in 1980 in the campaign. And nobody thought he could win. Al had been in that seat for 24 years, which happened to coincide with my age at the time. Now you can do the math and figure out how old I've gotten. Clearly it's a race between Gray and Gone is winning here on top. But Al had chaired the Ways and Means Committee and was the chairman, very powerful, and Denny said it's time for a change. And, you know, that was the year of that great president of ours, Ronald Reagan. Really, really made a difference. And as I toil away in Washington, I so wish that we had more people like Denny Smith there and Ronald Reagan in the White House there. We wouldn't be facing some of the problems we face today. You know, coming out of that Great Recession in 1980, America came back with a roar. He actually believed in the private sector and the spirit of the American entrepreneur. And he wasn't afraid to stand up for them and advocate for them. So I was driving through the Willamette Valley up to this beautiful location. I drove past a cornfield and saw the wheat turning gold, and I thought, well, that farmer didn't do that. And then I drove by some green fir trees that have been pruned, and I thought, well, I guess we're not supposed to call them Christmas trees, and holiday trees probably doesn't work anymore. And, well, and that farmer, clearly, he didn't do that. Somebody else did. And then I thought about the 2 decades my wife and I spent in small business as radio station owners in Hood River and the Dalles, and the time when I stood all night at the base of our tower in January when the transmission line had burned out, shorted out at the base of the tower. I did an all-nighter in a foot of snow, and then I was in the legislature and had to leave, and my sweet dear wife spent the next all-nighter at the base of the tower in a foot of snow with our engineer. And I thought, she didn't do that, I didn't do that. The government, somebody else did that, right? I don't know about you, but I haven't heard a comment out of this president, Barack Obama, that has so incensed me as when he said, they didn't do it, somebody else did it for them. Because if we're ever going to grow this economy back, it's about growing private sector jobs, not expanding government. I don't know about you, but I think we got enough government in our lives. In fact, we have too much government in our lives. We need to cut it back, prune it back. Some mentioned treaties earlier. You know, this administration was in dialogue with the United Nations on a treaty that I think would have affected our rights, our Second Amendment rights, the gun treaty. And, you know, a bunch of us on the Republican side wrote to the President and Secretary of State and said, don't you dare. We're against this. and they backed off, but you know what Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said? We'll resume talks next year. Well, I tell you, every one of the bad rules and regulations that the EPA and the Department of Labor and all these agencies have pushed out there that we in the Republican House have pushed back on, they've backed off on until the next odd-numbered year, which tells you they have an agenda for America that doesn't line up at all with the great agenda that God has for America. And I'm just going to tell you that there has not been a more consequential election in our lifetime. Maybe Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, but I got to tell you, this one is for all the marbles. We have to replace Barack Obama as President of the United States. And while we're at it, let's replace Harry Reid as the Majority Leader of the Senate. And now that I've got you a little fired up, I could use some help in the House from Oregon. I know Fred Thompson's here. I just saw him. We need Fred in Congress in this district. And we need Dr. Art Robinson in Congress from this state. And we've got other candidates running in Delinda Morgan and Ronald Green up in the 1st and 3rd districts. We need them as well, and I think they're here. It'd be nice to elect Newt Buehler as Secretary of State. He's a good man. Monday, I'm going to spend the whole day working with State House candidates from Portland to Roseburg, helping them raise money, frankly. It's mother's milk politics, but it doesn't replace grassroots. It's part of it, but it's not all of it. But we have to be able to compete, both here in the state, effectively, and across the country. For the last 3.5 years, I've been the deputy chairman at the National Republican Congressional Committee. And my sole mission and goal in that role, going into the 2010 election, was to accomplish one thing. And it was to make sure that Nancy Pelosi never managed a gavel again. And because of the organizations, many of which are represented out here, and certainly among all of you, all across this country, the citizens rose up and said, we don't want a runaway one-party Congress controlled by Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and topped off by Barack Obama. We want to change. We want to get back to the basic values that made this country great. And it wasn't by having the federal government take everything over and taxes beyond our means. So, this election, extraordinarily important. Thank you for being out here today. And I want to close by reminding you of the words of our Republican President Theodore Roosevelt many years ago. He said, fear God and do your part. And I think there's a lot of meaning in those words, as short and simple as they are. Respect God, respect His ways, understand His love, and do your part. And together, we'll make America great again. Thank you very much.